From Dallas, Texas, this is Spool, hosted by Dr. Nils Roemer, Dean of the Bass School at UT Dallas.
Thank you so much today for joining me here. I'm thrilled to welcome to the Spool Mary Engelbreit, a widely celebrated and known illustrator of children's books, cards, calendars. There's a plethora of things that she's produced over decades, and a really exceptional story of passion and success. I'm so thrilled to meet you, Mary. Really great honor to interview Mary Engelbreit. There's a lot of mystery of sorts about your biography once one digs really into it, because there's a 9-year-old who goes to school and kind of thinks about wanting an art studio, and then one forwards 30 years later, thereabout, and and you create your own company. And then you forward a little bit further, and it has turned into, what is it, $100 million company, and today you have some superfans. So that doesn't happen to a lot of us. So there's a lot in there that we want to try to understand, and therefore we're really, really happy to have you here. Going back to your school days, we have to imagine that you, like any other little kid, went to school and hopefully liked school, math a little bit, maybe a little less, but you liked drawing early on. Lots of us as kids draw, but for most of us, or almost all of us, it kind of stays there. But with you, it was a little different, wasn't it?
It was. I loved it. My favorite thing to do from very young, yeah.
Were you indiscriminately drawing all kinds of things that you saw, or were you right away like toward illustrating of books and of animals? Or
Yeah, my mother used to read to us every night from these beautiful books that were hers when she was little, and some of them were my grandmother's when she was little. So the illustrations were really beautiful, and they made a big impression on me. And so I would try to illustrate those stories too afterwards, and try to make up stories on my own. But the interest to me was not as much the story as the illustrations were.
So they took on a form unto itself for you in many ways. And
Yes.
so you enjoyed doing this passionately as a kid, and then at some point when the question came, so Mary, what would you like to do with your life? You said, I want to illustrate children's books, and your parents said, of course, why not?
They did.
They really?
They did. They were always so supportive. Yeah, always.
Very, very exceptional, because I don't think, there's something really, this is not exactly what the traditional career path is, right? Born in the 1950s,
No, and
you don't
and
do
neither one of
this.
them were artistic at all.
That's
So-
what I was wondering. No music, no singing, no illustrating in the family?
In my family, no, nobody. But they were, like I said, they were just so supportive, whatever we wanted to do. Like our house was full of art supplies from the time, I was little. And when they realized that I really liked it, they signed me up for some art courses in the neighborhood, ladies teaching art to kids. And yeah, they never ever said, what do you mean you want to be an artist? How are you going to make money? They never said anything like that. They just said, great.
No, that makes it so much more plausible, but one can easily envision that in other families that would have been, well, that's a nice thing for you to do, and you should enjoy this as your hobby of sorts, but don't turn this
Right.
into a career. But you very early on must have started to develop a very firm belief in your own abilities. So at what point did you think, okay, there's something here that really you love so passionately, and so started to believe so strongly in your ability that you just thought, okay, I'm going to stick this out?
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, I was good, but I wasn't fantastic or anything. But I just got so much pleasure from the act of drawing and creating, thinking of ideas, that's what I wanted to do. And in high school, I started drawing and selling the cards, little cards. I would buy blank wedding invitations, and then I'd do a little original drawing on each one. and I sold them to a local store.
This was
And
your
I
first
was
big
just
sale, right?
determined.
Wow. That was your first
Yeah.
big sale.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
And I was determined. People really liked them. So I just thought, I'm just going to keep doing this
so there's
until I
just
figure
simply a
it
lot
out.
of early positive reinforcement. In other words, one, you enjoy very much what you're doing, and two, you very quickly run into lots of people who really appreciate what you're doing.
Right. Right. I managed to get it out. I think that's the key to everything that happened was that I managed to get it out in front of people early,
Right.
and I realized that they liked it, and there was an audience for it. So, I guess I thought, well, if I can keep doing this and keep getting it out there, everything will work out.
It certainly did. It
And
certainly all worked out. But it kind of kept working out for you well. But then in 1982, you founded a company. So that,
yes,
that would have been another, I mean, this is at that point you're 30, right? So that's quite a leap to say, okay, what I really need is to turn this all into a big enterprise of sorts.
yeah. And the way that came about was I had been freelancing for years with several companies, and they were great, but I wanted them to, like, one of them did calendars, and then we did a few cards with some smaller companies, but they weren't moving as fast as I wanted them to move. They weren't producing as many things as I wanted them to produce, and so we thought, we can do this. There are printers here, we can do this ourselves, and set it up in my basement and started selling cards.
So there's,
So
that part I had not even fully contemplated. So early on, you become your own physical producer. You set up your own printing shop. So it's not just that you set up a company,
yes.
but you're physically actually printing it in your basement.
Well, no, we were printing them at a printing company here in St. Louis, but we were warehousing everything
Okay.
in my basement until we outgrew it and got a little office and just kept growing like that.
So why do you think
You
it
know,
was such a big success? Does that have to do with the fact that it was cards and calendars and that you did so many different things in so many different forms, that it was something that people touched, used, returned to, or what explain? I mean, there's
yeah,
obviously something incredibly charming about the illustrations, and I don't want to take any of that away, but there's nonetheless the kind of real success that is, I mean, all the way to today with these super fans that, it's like almost hard to fathom how this could have happened so easily.
yeah. It I think that it was because the drawings were pretty different for that time. At that time, greeting cards were mainly little animals or flowers. And I put out greeting cards that had quotes on the front of the card that I thought would mean something to people. And I used a lot of black backgrounds, which nobody did back then. So they were just different enough, I think, to attract attention. And then the sentiments on the front of the card were different. And people just recognized themselves, I think, in the drawings, because I was drawing things that were happening to me every day. Um, so I think people recognized themselves in the drawings, and that's why they were attracted to them. And yeah, we put them on products that people used every day, greeting cards and calendars and picture frames and, all kinds of things like that that they actually used.
Well, used is, I mean, that, started really connect with their own private world. So in lots of ways, then your artwork becomes another way by which they remember parts of their biographies, parts of their bringing up their children,
Right.
cards that they sent to loved ones. And so and that's, I think, the real intricate thing about your art, that it kind of infiltrates almost the private lives of your consumers. So they don't just use it like you use
Yeah.
like a shuffle or something like that. They use it in these really, spaces that come along with children, calendars and things, and very much in their private lives.
And a lot of people told us, and we realized this was happening, that they would buy, say, a greeting card. Greeting cards were a biggest thing at the time, but they'd buy one greeting card to send to a friend, and then they'd buy one to keep for themselves because they, whatever they saw on the card meant so much to them, they wanted to have it too. And then they would spread that message to their friend. But I think that was a big part of our business, actually.
So
We were selling multiple
yeah,
cards.
that's the kind of explains maybe the business side. How about yourself? We started early on talking about that in lots of ways there was never the big decision making beyond you simply being very passionate about drawing. How is it today for you? Are you still being able to kind of fall back into that former self of yours that just enjoyed tremendously to draw, or is it always
I
project
love it.
oriented? Or
I mean, today it's the exact same feeling I get when I sit down to draw. It's how I get through the day is knowing I'll be able to draw, and I still have lots and lots of ideas. So it's the same. I feel exactly the same now doing it as I did at the very beginning.
so in lots of ways, your daily routine of sorts has never dramatically changed because it always has involved waking up, drinking coffee or not drinking coffee, maybe tea, whatever your preferred drink is, but drawing every day. Drawing has always been.
Right. Drawing or making something, and yeah, it's the key to everything in my life.
Do you ever,
Yeah.
like when you draw, do you draw just at home, or do you also take do you also draw outdoors, landscape at times these days, or is it mostly at home?
It's always at home.
Almost at home?
Yeah, I've often asked my friends, how in the world do you paint outside with the bugs and the heat and the drag and all the stuff there? So I'm pretty much at my table all the time, and everything that I want to draw is right here in my head. So I've got everything I need right there.
So how's that for you then, as a consumer yourself? Do you buy greeting cards, or do you say, "Oh, just hold off. I just have a few here that I've done myself," or do you enjoy the work of others? Or
I do. I actually don't. Ironically, I don't send a lot of cards.
well, none of us any
And
longer do much,
when I do,
No, most of us don't use cards any longer as much. So, but
well,
but
that's
it.
another problem.
That is
Yeah.
another problem.
But yeah, I love to shop for greeting cards, and I love other artists' artwork, and I buy them and save them for special occasions, send them to friends.
How about
But
children's? How about children's books? Do you buy them just illustrated by other artists? Or
I do. I have slowed down on that just because I've got so many.
you
of
have
them,
probably a
but,
few, right?
Yeah, I have two little grandchildren, girls, and but their parents buy them books like crazy. So
So that's good, right? Imagine the opposite. That would be difficult, right? If you had grandchildren who wouldn't have, children's book, that would be difficult, right, for you to live with.
that would be bad.
That would be
That would be
bad.
bad.
Just would be bad.
But yeah, I love other artists' work, and I love buying it and supporting it whenever I can.
Do you read sometimes to your grandchildren as well, children's books?
Yes, I do. They have some favorites. A couple of mine they like. I've got a fairy tale book that they like to read, but I'm trying to think of some that I've read to them recently. They're a little more modern than mine, which they also like. But yeah, times change. I mean, when I started, nobody had phones. Nobody had, nobody was emailing everybody back and forth. They wrote notes, they sent cards, they used calendars on the wall. So even though we do, of course, sell all that stuff still, it's very different than it was.
These days, children's books, greeting cards, calendars are far less often used, and it just reminds me, like, there are some books that I read with my children, and to this day we have some phrases because you obviously read the same book over and over as a parent, right?
Over and
And
over,
so
yeah.
that, however, creates also a particular language that certain phrases I can still use today, and my sons know exactly, what I mean and what the implication is.
Right.
And these days they're a little older, so when I use those words in front of their girlfriends, and they kind of smirk at me a little bit. They don't want to be reminded
Yeah.
of those days. But you don't have that attachment to words any longer as much, unless you have those types of things around you, like illustrated children's books that you read every
I
night
think
over and over
I
again.
think a lot of people do still have those, especially the children's books. Everybody was so afraid when books went online, all the bookstores were going to close and it was going to be horrible. And that didn't happen. And actually, there's an uptick in the new bookstores, independent bookstores, and everybody's reading. But it never affected children's books
No, that's
anyway,
true.
because you want to have that in your hand,
Yeah.
on your lap with the kid, and you want to be looking at the pictures. And so that's never really, children's books.
No,
have
it's
not
true also.
changed
If I think about my kids, however much they embrace technology, it took them quite some time until they started reading books on devices. They, for the longest time, in particular their favorite books, when it came to birthdays, they still insisted on getting the physical copies. That was not the same. And they, even now, they're moved out and they've gone to colleges, but they're still moving around those copies, of these,
Right.
beloved books that they read early on. And they also read them, often repeatedly again. And I think there's something really comforting about the physicality of having that book again, that they read over and over again, and kind of returning
so
to that.
too.
But eventually, when they get older, they do increasingly also use then, digital books and the likes. But early on,
Sure.
they are maybe the last users also of public libraries in large numbers. Because if you go to public libraries, you see a lot of kids in there these days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think they love the whole thing about the library. They like going in, they get to pick out so many books, and they get to use their card or sit around there and read. And I think libraries are the last town square.
The last town
where
square, that's
everybody
nice.
goes and-
That's a good
Yeah.
good way of thinking about it. Tell me, there's, obviously I need to ask you about your superfans. You need to explain this a little bit, because what are they? How does it look like?
Well, we love them.
No, of course you do,
They're
and they love
great.
you, right? And they love you, right?
Evidently, yeah. Or they love the work anyway. And yeah, they're so sweet, and they comment on things on Instagram and stuff. We hear from them, and we like to know what they like, because that's important to us. And they've been fans for such a long time, and they go with the flow. They go with whatever we're putting out. They're interested in it, and they.
But I think, from what I gather, some of these super fans have literally, rooms in the houses dedicated to some of your artwork. So they're not just commenting on social media and giving you little hearts up or something like that. They really have dedicated a room in their respective house where some of your artwork is on display. Is that right?
Right. And it was long before the digital age that these people started
really?
collecting.
All right.
So we would get letters and photographs way back then, and we knew they were out there.
Remarkable.
And they made themselves known, and we love them.
No, I bet you do. Just a few minutes ago, before I, started talking to you, I just obviously Googled you a little bit, and then I Googled your name, but images, and then my computer almost collapsed because it goes on and on and on and on. I mean, there's so much that you've done over the years. Is there anything that, in your mind, I mean, I love the one. I think you did one which has a Mona Lisa on top, and it's called like Me and Art or something like that. But is it?
Yeah, that calendar is coming out for
Oh
2027,
yeah, that's what.
where I did the classics.
Yeah.
I did my version of
Yeah,
classics.
no, I
So,
obviously I had a bit of a giggle when I saw that. But is there anything
yeah.
that stands out in all these decades where you like, if you look back, you really feel okay, that was a very, very special kind of project for you, or are there all your productions equally close to your heart?
When I'm doing them, they're the most important thing
Right.
in the world. But yeah, when I look back, I've had some great. Like I did I helped do the sets and costumes for a production of Matilda here in town at the Muni Opera. That was really, really fun. Um, and then there are just some drawings that I'm very fond of, and I think they're, I love, and some books that I've done that I really am proud of, like Mother Goose and The Night Before Christmas, and so yeah, they're it's been a really fun
Fun.
business, and I have fond memories of almost all of it.
Tell me something, we talked already about your exceptional success. So, but then how is it, are you also inspiring new illustrators that talk to you like I do and say, Mary, tell us about how you turned toward this and how this all worked out? And then your answer is, well, I've kind of done it all along. I just followed my passion. I mean, how is this if you talk to aspiring young artists and, they
Well,
want to know about you?
it's very different. I mean, I can hardly even offer them advice because it is so different than when I started. They said, how can I do this? Well, you can't do it the way I did it because it's just not done that way anymore. So, and I am not that familiar. I don't work on a computer. And so I'm not real clear about that part of the art. But all I can say is that you just have to kind of, if you are passionate about it and you're willing to put in the work, and it is work, to keep it going, just stick with it. I'm not sure what to tell them about, they asked me about the digital art because that is how a lot of illustrations are done now. And I can't help them with that.
But it,
And licensing has changed quite a bit since I started. As a matter of fact, it's made a 360 turn. I mean, there's just, you can't do it the way I did it back then.
but you already said, I mean, maybe the true constant and all that today, as it always has been, is one's passionate, one's own interests, and then I guess
Right.
kind of willingness also to pursue this. I mean, this is the other kind of magic in all of this. It's not just that one has to be passionate about something, but you have to be willing to really chase it, right, and be really intentional about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work involved, and there's a lot of boring non-art business to take care of to make it go.
I mean, if you don't mind, considering how exceptionally successful you have been, is there like one episode where you felt like you were submitting something and you were just flatly turned down, or just one miserable failure, for, where you learned something, or is there a story like that?
Let me think. I have to say, certainly at the beginning, it was great. I mean, it was just one great thing happening after another. We kind of just followed what was being offered to us, and we learned as we went along. I didn't know anything about licensing, and when people offered to license, we, quick figured it out and did it, and everything went well. Of course, we've had a lot of things that didn't sell very well, but it never seemed to um, matter because you just keep going. I mean, there was always another project to do. And so if one didn't work out, you were
The
working
next
on
one,
another one that
right?
did. And I can't think of any horrible flops that we've had.
No, not that I
Luckily.
think you did, but it's just usually everyone has sometimes like a story like that, where it's just
Oh, we've definitely had some troubles,
right,
but I mean, it was hard for everybody when the economy
right.
failed, and it was hard through COVID to keep everything going. But there are ways
Right.
to get around everything, and like I say, you can't give up. You just keep going, putting one foot in front of the other, and either some opportunity will arise or you create an opportunity, you know,
So
and
tell us,
keep moving.
something. What are you draw? What are you working on right now? I mean,
Right now, um, I am working on, oh my God, what am I working on? Well, we're about to start the next calendar, the 2028.
Oh wow, yeah, way ahead. We're
Oh,
just
we're
we're
way
still so
ahead.
busy in 26 that we can't even fathom that there's a 27 coming after
I
all
know,
of this,
much less at 28. Yeah.
much less at 28.
And I'm going to be working on a book soon that's a friend of mine wrote, a friend of mine who works at the studio. Um, but actually, right now, I'm kind of in between projects, but that doesn't mean I stop drawing. I keep drawing because every drawing I do, they can use somewhere. I mean, we even take little patterns out of a dress or out of a border and turn it into fabric. I just finished a fabric line for, oh my God, I forgot the name of the company. I always want to say Easy Spirit, and that's not it. Free Spirit.
Free spirit.
Free Spirit.
Free spirit. So,
And I just finished a couple of lines of fabric for them. So there's always something going
something new and
on.
something different.
And lately, I never used to do this, but we have so many drawings on file. I think I've got something like 14,000
Wow.
copyrighted
Wow.
drawings. So they don't even need me anymore because they can take everything they
From
need out of those things, out of those drawings and those patterns and those borders. But I keep drawing, so everything I draw we can use. Engeldark started, I want to say it was maybe around COVID. I'm not sure. But things had a little bit maybe slowed down and everything was going well, and we thought, well, or I thought, believe me, nobody else thought this at my company, but I thought it would be fun. We were always thinking of kind of sarcastic versions of the cards, and we would kid around at work, and we had this kind of bank of funny sayings, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to illustrate those, even though they're a little darker, a little more sarcastic, and it wasn't all happy kids and flowers and that kind of thing. To put those into cards, and so I started doing a couple, and I did them in black and white, and they were pretty snarky, and we decided to do a line and put them out, and they were very successful. We were afraid it was going to shut the business down, but they were wildly successful. And we ended up putting them on all the products, the mugs and the...
Give us, one example of one of those snarky lines.
Oh, one of them is...
I don't mean to get you in trouble, but you
No,
can
no,
share a
they're out
snarky line
there.
with me here.
Yeah, one of them is a little cat saying, I hope I can remember this. I'm sorry for all the awful, mean, accurate things I said about you, is one of them.
One of them. All right.
And another one is, I would challenge you to a battle of wits, but I see you are unarmed, which is the Shakespeare
All
quote.
right. All right.
And we thought, well, who would you send these to? You know, who we thought, you know, nobody's going to know. Nobody's
Right.
going to want to
Well,
send those to
or
somebody,
receive
but
a
they
card
did.
like this, right?
Yeah, yeah, they loved them.
Yeah.
And we have a calendar of them, and yeah, people love them.
Wonderful. I really want to thank you again for spending a little time with me today, being able to ask you some questions. Really credible. Reminds me also of the beauty of these greeting cards and how it feels to use them, how it feels to receive them, how to read children's books. And so has been a nice kind of revisiting of myself also of sorts, you know, via our conversation. Really thrilled to learn about your tremendous success. Thank you again, Mary. This has been a wonderful experience learning about the incredible successes that you had in these wonderful illustrations and what all these books and cards have meant for people over the years. Really so thrilled that I had a chance to learn all about that. My name is Nils Roemer and I'm the Dean of the Bass School at UT Dallas. Please join me again next week as well.